you doing?
I'm good, thanks. You?
Good, thanks. It's nice to actually finally be able to put a face to the voice and the music that I've been hearing all this time.
I kind of keep my face hidden though.
Yeah, you use that rabbit icon,
Uh-huh.
and the videos always show other things, whether it's the score that's rolling along or the audio file that you've recorded.
Yeah, that's more laziness on my part of not being bothered to go out and like record any video footage, though. I think.
In the shortest space of time, who returns to feeling fine? Yeah, can only simply be fresh air is healing me. I feel complete peace as I breathe so deep. My mind is empty, I forget the world.
Yeah, I mean, I don't make a lot of original music right now. I just play in cover bands and things like that. But when I do, I tend to just download stuff that I find, free material on some of these websites that you can get and put it all together to make more like a visual backdrop.
Yeah, so it's something I'm not very gifted at video making anyway, so I'm probably better off not wasting my energy on it.
I first found out about you and your music when I was speaking with GrimRock a few months ago. I can't remember how long ago exactly, but he had talked about the fact that you guys had done a collaboration together, which is You Make My Heart Burn.
I'd have control. Choose my words and remain reserved. Will I ever learn? You can go whenever you want. You make my
The lyrics for that came about because when we was doing that collaboration, obviously the time zone difference. I would receive a message like through the night, and then I would find it and reply. And one of them was like, "I'm sorry, I've not been in contact, but I had a terrible heartburn last night." So like that just sort of just inspired the lyric. I obviously didn't make it about Grimm's heartburn, but it was just one of those things. It was a good collaboration. It kind of just it was dead easy. I felt it just happened, and it's like a nice song that came from it.
I really liked it because I've listened to a lot of your music and a lot of Grimm's music, and it felt like somehow it really did sort of take the best of those things and put them together into one song. Like it's got this nice chill, I'll say, the vocal line. I just thought it had a great sound to it, but then the music itself is quite raw, and there's heavy distortion, things like that. So I really thought it was a cool combination.
Yeah. I feel like when I listen to it now, it very much like it sounds like the two of us kind of thing. It's like I wouldn't normally do anything that sounds like GrimRock. He doesn't do anything that sounds like me, but like together, like it you can hear both of us kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just thought it was really cool how I did see on YouTube somebody was commenting on one of your newer releases, which of course is actually old music that you recorded like 20 years ago.
Stripe, he's an odd one, and he's got no hair. Yeah, Stripe, he's an odd one, and he's got no hair. Oh, we got him off a fat bird, and all he is.
A lot of those ones that I've been putting up on YouTube are just those old recordings. I thought, well, it's nice to have them on a platform where, everyone's familiar with YouTube. So I've just been making those quick and easy videos just so that, if anyone does ask and say, I'll just look at YouTube. That's that's it. Because I'm not on there near the streamers anymore because I just seems like a waste of time to me that.
It's interesting you say that. Just so I clarify what I just started to say there, because it was that somebody had commented that it didn't sound like something they would normally expect from you. They heard you in it. I thought
Yeah.
that was a cool comment, you know.
Uh, I mean, again, that definitely was written and recorded a long, long time ago. That probably was the late 90s that I did that one. It's it's hard to listen back to them because they're just I didn't know how to record music. I just had a cheap 4 track and I didn't know how to particularly play very well. I was all self-taught and I'd only been playing like a year or so. It just seemed like a natural thing to do to record it as well. And like I now have this like big back catalogue, which is quite cringy, some of it, but like I feel like, well, it is what it is. I was
But
ready
then
to,
what made you decide
you know what I
to
mean?
re-release it then? Because like you've remixed it and then released it now. So what made you decide
Uh,
to do that then?
well, it's a long story, but like, so when around about 2013, I relocated from Essex into Scotland, and I just stopped making music at that point. I had other things going on, and music just it didn't really seem to take a priority. And it wasn't really until I think it was around about 2021 I found Bandcamp. I'd never heard of it. I wasn't,
Mm.
looking, but I thought, oh, I'll just stick my music on there so that I can share it with people. And as I was doing that, I kind of thought, I really enjoyed making music, and that was why I then sort of started, trying to polish those older recordings, whether it's just putting them simply through BandLab's free mastering, which is obviously, hit or miss, but it made them all the same sort of volume and made it a bit more of a bearable listen to me.
Mhm.
So that's the only reason I went back to those old recordings, just purely because I'd sort of rediscovered music. I had like an 8 year gap in between where I didn't make music. I barely played any music. I just sort of gave up on it really. So I don't know why that came about again, other than discovering Bandcamp. So I should thank them, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you're not the first person to say something of that nature to me about music, where I guess at some point in our lives, having started out as musicians at a young age, I guess in my case, it was playing in bands with friends and things like that. And I studied music from a young age. But then at a certain point, for some people, you hit a point where there's just a lot of other stuff happening, whether it's work or
Yeah.
family. And music seems to be like, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of effort. And
Definitely like recording it as well. It's such a time consuming process. So, it's one thing playing an instrument, but then like writing songs and recording it takes so long to get a good quality. And it's yeah, I guess got to the point where I found that tedious. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. And in my case, I teach music at a school.
Uh,
So even if I'm not writing songs, I'm playing music every day and I'm arranging and stuff. It's my job. So which is for me is awesome. But
yeah,
if you have a job that takes a lot of your time and your energy, and then you go home and you're thinking, yeah, do I really want to sit in front of a computer and spend another 4 hours trying to get the right recording and then the right mix and all that stuff? Sometimes it's like, no. But then you got back into it, so I'll say thank you to Bandcamp because I really enjoy a lot of the stuff that I've heard. But then you also went in a different direction. So 2021, I noticed that numbers are big for you. Like there's volume, what, volume X to volume X,
got volume 1 to 20, and that's when I stopped and had the break. So
Hmm.
that's why I've now decided I've carried on, but I've not called it volume. Because again, it's another thing. I can't be bothered thinking up album titles. So It's just laziness on my part. So the next one's 21, and then I don't have to worry about what that's called. It's just
So is that like on 21, you have 2021 blues, right? Was that actually
yeah.
done in 21, or was that just because it was the number that came up?
No, that was the year that I recorded it, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
the reason it's called 2021 Blues really is because it's essentially a slightly better played version of a blues riff that I've played, but for years, kind of thing. And I've recorded it in other versions that are not as well played, if you like. Not that that's played brilliantly or anything, but it's kind of it was as if to introduce this new era of music and say, well, this is an old riff that's being done now.
So you did that, which was, as you're saying right now, was like a callback to something you had done before. But then you did Orchestral Suite #1, new
Yeah.
Lanark, which is completely different. Now you're going orchestral. You're going, full on scoring, and it sounds like you're making movie soundtracks.
There's a couple of reasons that happened. It's uh, kind of like my lockdown thing, everyone else like you know got fit or
Yeah.
started painting or whatever. And mine was my other half. She's classically trained. She used to play in like the Scottish National Orchestra and stuff like that. So she's incredibly talented musically.
I don't know where I
Um,
found this, but her name's Vicky. Is that correct?
yes, that's right. And she's a huge influence in my music these days. And like if I play her something and she says, that's not quite right. I know she's right. She knows my music that well as well. The other part of it was I met Luminous, a musician from Glasgow, who I met through the recording of 21. He got a copy of it and liked it. So we then started talking over the internet, and he explained to me about, this notation software, which, it's not something I'd ever even thought to look at, but I downloaded Muse Score and I was like, all right, okay, so how do you make music with this?
Mhm.
And then like obviously because Vicky's classically trained, she's sort of sitting there saying, well, yeah, like explaining minims, crotchets, and all that kind of stuff to me, dotted notes, slurs. So like I had no intention of making classical music or soundtrack music or an orchestral suite. It was just I thought, well, I'd like to learn how to read and write music. You know, most people that like record music at home probably don't know how to do it, and it was just something that interested me. So I gave it a go, and then during the recording of 22, I started talking to Andrew Hartshorn, who's got the Monochrome Motif records, and
Mhm.
I explained to him that kind of premise, and he asked to listen to some of my orchestral sketches, and it's like brilliant, like try and make a full suite, and I'll release it. So that's kind of how that came about. It's like a combination. Everything sort of fell into place at once from different influences.
So is that how the Monochrome Assembly came together?
Oh, I mean that's Andrew's label, and I mean it's hugely encouraging to my classical music as well. He's
Oh.
good at spotting the orchestral and ambient sort of talent on the internet. He's picked up loads of great artists now, and that obviously the Monochrome Assembly is his collection of artists on his label. But like a lot of that first Monochrome Assembly album is collaboration between all those artists as well. So it's dead interesting.
Is that Poseidon's Realm?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Staring out to sea, hoping the answers come to me. What should it be?
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to some of that and I was just thinking the first sort of few minutes of what you were telling me about, having played music and you dropped it for a while, you came back to it, all those things, and I heard 21 and all of it made sense to me. But I also knew, as you were saying that I've heard your classical stuff and I thought, how did that come about? And now you've explained it now.
Yeah, like 22 on the very last track, there's like a string quartet playing staccatos towards the end, and I think I perhaps put that up on Twitter just as a score video, and I think that's how Andrew first sort of went, "Oh, what's that kind of thing?"
Yeah.
And then I sent him those other sketches that I had, which are now you can get those if you, I think you can anyway. They were on Bandcamp as part of if you buy the CD off a Monochrome Motif, there's a download to those original sketches that I sent to Andrew, which
Okay.
are not as good as the full suite.
It seems to me like we're talking about really from 2021. We're only talking like 3 years or, roughly, right?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of something I'm really trying to not rush anymore because I used to rush all the time when I was younger. I think in 2004 I like recorded 8 albums, um,
Jeez.
which and they have varying degrees of listenable songs on there because of that rushed. And again, that's something Vicky will say to me. She'll say, "Look, what's the rush? Do you know what I mean those like work on those vocals? They sound a bit flat there, or whatever." Whereas in the past, I'd have just been like, "Fine." And I kind of feel like even I've come back and I have taken longer on 21, and I did rush 22, and it's so I'm recording 23 at the minute, but like I'm really trying to take my time on that and not because there is no rush.
Right.
And I'd like it to sound as good as possible, and I try not to.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting balance. Just a week or so ago, I was speaking with a producer in Scotland as well, in Perth, Scotland.
Yeah, I
Uh,
started watching that yesterday.
oh, thank you. Yeah,
I
David
didn't get around to finishing
McFarlane.
it. I didn't get around to finishing it, but it was dead interesting. The start that I watched, all the traditional music and that.
Yeah, well, so I mean, the thing is, he comes from this family of musicians, and his grandfather and two of his uncles are in the Hall of Fame for traditional Scottish music. It's like he's played music his whole life. So then we were talking about in the studio that balance between when, for some of us, like he and I had in common that when I first started recording anything, I would take way too long to record something. And he said the same thing. He said he would just go back and he'd do remixes and he'd do fixes and everything until finally the only person on earth that would notice the change that he had made was him. Um, and what you've said is that you were doing kind of the opposite. You were just rushing through, going, get it
Yeah,
out. I think it's about balance, because if you overthink anything, you'll end up, sort of taking the true life out of it. Whereas
yeah.
if you take too long, because there was one recording that he had done, Finn Anderson is a singer in Scotland as well.
There's a garden we could go. There's a dark and wild wood. Through the trees, the voices blow.
Really incredible voice, and he's got this
Voices from
very
my
I don't know,
childhood,
calming style about his music, a lot of it.
telling me
And there was this
nothing
little
too quickly.
flub, this little
Is
mistake on the piano,
anyone a
which
nightfall that
I only heard it because I had listened to the song about, 5 times at that point. I heard this little thing and I didn't bother me at all. And I know that I didn't notice it the first 4 times I listened. I thought it was cool because it felt like a real human being playing.
Yeah.
I like to keep the authenticity of the recording,
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
where do you think you are in that continuum right now?
At the minute, maybe I'm overthinking it, but it's difficult, isn't it? Because like I genuinely like have this thing like right at the back of my mind, like I have rushed so much, and there's so many things that I listen back to now and I think, oh, I wish I'd have
Yeah.
done that differently. And I don't want that to be the case on this next one, although I'm sure it probably still will be like that. Um, there's some songs I've recorded, like the guitar parts, like particularly the acoustic guitar parts, over and over.
Hmm.
And that's mainly because I've been trying microphones and room placement and all that kind of stuff. Uh, and I don't know whether in doing that, you are losing some of that integrity of the original, feeling for the song.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I guess you just won't. I'm fortunate in that, like, I do keep like storage space is not really an issue any longer, is it? So, like, I mean,
Hmm.
I keep all of every take I do, I keep it so I can always go back and say, no, no, I got that right the first time. I just, um, I'm just being fussy kind of thing. But I feel in doing that, it's going to take me a long time to sort through all of my brain.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to just what you feel comfortable with. But I mean, I do think it was interesting that David had said that through his years of recording people, what he's learned is to not overthink it. Whereas I would have thought he would have gotten, I don't know why I thought this, but I would have thought somebody recording would get more and more picky because they know more about
Yeah.
it. But he
Uh-huh.
said he said instead, no, it's that balance,
You
knowing
know,
and nobody else on earth is going to notice the difference.
yeah, it's dead interesting that someone would have that uh, sort of view on it. Um, because it's not something I've ever considered that you like someone else is not noticing it just because I am doesn't mean someone else is kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not against like listening to music from the 30s with terrible recording hiss and crackle and stuff like that. So that's not what makes a song bad, is it? If anything, it adds a little charm to it, and you kind of think that's incredible that I'm listening to something that was recorded all that all those years ago, and probably in the back of a furniture shop or something, because like recording studios didn't exist.
Yeah, onto
Um,
onto
so,
acetate, which I still don't honestly understand how that works. Like,
you know, so like the recording process doesn't detract from those recordings. So I don't know why I think it should affect mine really. I guess it doesn't. I mean, I just have this catalog of music now, and it is what it is. I'm not really um, as much as, like I said earlier, it makes me cringe. I'm not going to go back and redo it now. It was
Yeah.
a moment in time. I was in my 20s or whatever, sitting in my parents' bedrooms, making this music. It is what it is.
Like you, I have gone back and explored some of the music that I wrote way back in the 90s or whatever it was, you know. And I've redone some of the stuff, but for the most part, I'm personally a lot more interested with what comes to me now, you know,
Yeah,
whether it's better for the world or something, I don't know. Like maybe those songs were my high point in my songwriting development. I don't know. All I
yeah,
know is when I come up with something new, it's interesting to me. And really, in my case, I'm not getting thousands of views. So if it's not enjoyable for me, then what the heck am I doing? What's the point?
that that is kind of exactly where I'm at the minute. And totally why, like, I've kind of, I'm not interested in the social media side of it, or anything like that, because ultimately music to me now is just making music, and like I'll record it because I want to, but
Mhm.
um and like you say, if it sounds good to me, I'll put it out.
Mhm.
But I get much more enjoyment nowadays of just sitting like at a piano or with my guitar or whatever, and just playing music rather than thinking about recording it or writing songs or anything like that. That these things happen anyway.
I think that's kind of the way. I mean, in my case, I spend more time on this podcast than I do on songwriting and stuff like that.
Uh,
It takes, you know, this is my favorite part of it is this conversation. So I'm learning
yeah,
something new about you and how you create the music and what you think about it. You know, for me, that's really interesting.
yeah,
I do enjoy as well going back and watching this and then deciding what are some cool things that I can put in. Like when we mention the name of a song that you've written and recorded, I'll pop in that like a little sample of that song, 30 seconds or something.
uh,
I enjoy that as well, but I do find it takes a lot of time. And I don't have that many subscribers. I don't have that many viewers. So, you know, there are people watching it, which I love. And if that number grows, I'll be happy. But actually, I'll be doing this anyway because
yeah.
I really enjoy it.
If it helps at all, I think you do a cracking job. I really enjoy the fact that you cut in segments of like previous interviews and stuff like that as well. That makes it more enjoyable to watch, and also you kind of think, oh, I want to check out that episode because, like, who is Jock Duncan? You
Yes,
know what I mean?
yeah.
So yeah,
Thank you. I'm really happy to hear you say that because I have had moments where it's like, you know, the last couple minutes of the episode and I'm plugging away at it and it's, you know, my wife's calling me for dinner and I'm going, why am I even doing this? You know, it's good to know that people who do watch it, um, you know, you're enjoying watching those. So that makes me feel good. Thank you.
no, it's a good show. Probably one of the. It's a shame you don't have more subscribers and viewers because it's one of the better music blogs out there for like independent artists. I think anyway, it keeps me engaged.
Nice. Well, I just stumbled upon independent artists who wanted to talk about their music, get the word out a little bit. And now it's like, in your case, I heard your music and I really enjoyed it. And I thought, if you'd be happy to chat with me, I'd really appreciate it because I don't know, I find it really interesting to know how someone like you does make those decisions, does decide if it's new or if it's orchestral or if it's a re-recording of an older song. Like, how do those things
Yeah.
come up, you know?
That's kind of the beauty of music, isn't it? Is it doesn't really matter how it works. It just, as long as it does work for you, that's fine.
The Cosmic is BOS. Is that Boss or Bose
Yeah,
or?
Cosmic Boss. Yeah.
I understand what you told me about the Monochrome Assembly, and Cosmic
Uh-huh.
Boss is one of the Monochrome Assembly, but it seems like the two of you sort of broke off into a splinter group and recorded some stuff. Is that what happened, or?
So 22 was recorded as part of there's an independent record label called Lights and Lines, and they run a competition in 20, I think it was May 22, to record write and record an album in the month of May, and that's what I did. So my album 22 came from that, and
Okay.
Andrew Hartshorn and Andy and Nick Jackson, who are Cosmic Boss, they did the same. They made it. So that's how I kind of met them, through that competition. And the following year, we decided to make a group from people that had been. So the competition was run again in 2023, and we decided to make an album collaboration of those artists that were on that previous year. So that was Cosmic Boss, Andrew Hartshorn, and myself did an album together for that. I've done like a brass arrangement on one of the Cosmic Boss songs, and like that's got the most views of any song that I've been part of. I think it's got like over 4,000 views, something like that.
The wokest ever car park, bursting at the sea. Keep going till it's well dark and surf the brightest dream. Oh wow, mega bubble mushroom, nature's the best classroom. There's castles in the sand dunes. It's mainly trial and error.
So that's kind of how I've worked with them. They're good fun as well. They had a podcast, that they were doing the last couple of years, which I sort of contributed to music to that as well.
Yeah. I'll include the link because I did hear some of that. There was a little introduction, and then it said that if you want to know more about the Monochrome Assembly, each of the members,
Uh-huh.
you could learn more about them. So I'll include all those links as well. So Natalie Williams Calhoun, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. She's an incredible composer from Canada.
Oh, hey, my home and native land. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Took me ages to tie that rope.
I think she was the first artist that Andrew Hartshorn signed to his monochrome motif.
Okay.
She's a cellist,
Okay.
incredible musician.
So there's Alexa Thanos and Sean Ettlin, Hipster Pug, Dan Johnson.
He's just got a new album out. It's ambient albums. Good listen.
Yeah, well, that's what I love about this too, is I've listened because of GrimRock, I learned about your music, and I've listened to quite a lot of your music. And because of your music, I've learned about Cosmic Boss, which I've started to
Yeah.
listen. And now I have more listening. I've got the day off tomorrow, so I'm ready.
What's your set then?
What is it you're looking for?
Something. When I find it, I'll know.
She's in love with you, you know. I just don't know why, that's all. I just don't know why.
I'm actually doing a little, I won't say what it is, but I'll give a little intro. I'm doing a reflection on some music that GrimRock has recorded as well that I'm going to revisit with him. So I'm going to be working on that tomorrow as well. This is it. Like I have a day off, you'd think. So it's going to be a beautiful sunny day tomorrow. But rather than going out and sitting with my friends at a cafe outside, I'm going to be sitting inside editing GrimRock music.
With your AC on.
Yeah. But I can't help it. I really enjoy it. So so Virtual Normality was the name of the album, I guess.
I think it's an EP, yeah.
Yes, that's right. So I was thinking Virtual Insanity.
I think it's
What's
probably
that?
a play on that. I don't know. I've not asked, but
Yeah. Um, really what I loved most about your music initially when I just gave sort of a cursory listen was that there's an acoustic blues thing, and then there's some classical, like I said, sort of cinematic music, and then there's stuff like Creepy Craig. I was trying to figure out, is there a center to this? You had a song, Girl, I Need You. I really like that. I just really like the feel of the song, actually. It's kind of laid back.
Girl, I need you all of the time. Girl, I need you all of the time. I try to please you, so you'll be mine.
What I'm really happy speaking with you right now is understanding that process, that sort of how you went from doing stuff like that to what you're currently doing. I also know it's not a straight line. I'm sure you probably sit down and play blues guitar just when you're, just for your own enjoyment as well. Now,
well, see, the thing is, in learning theory, music theory, which I did to be able to write the suite, I don't play the guitar the same way any longer. Because I like before learning theory, all I knew was the pentatonic scale. Like Girl I Need You is in open G, but I couldn't tell you what sort of chords or harmony or anything like that is in that song. I just played it. Whereas, to be honest, that was one of the few songs I had maybe 6 or 7 versions of that because I was just never happy with it. So it's nice to hear that you like it because it's one that I really struggled with, mainly because it's like it's recorded in 6/8, which was really like I don't have a drummer, and it was really difficult to program program the drums for that in 6/8.
Yeah, I think it's easier now, especially with something like MuseScore. You just literally go from the palette and drop in 6/8 and it's in 6/8.
Yeah, so like I kind of I didn't know that at the time though. Like when I because that's on 21, I just recorded 21 the same way I'd recorded every album from volume 1 to volume 20. I just plugged everything into my computer and away I went. I like there's very little plugins or anything like that on there because I didn't research what had happened in the 8 years that I'd not recorded an album. I just recorded it kind of thing, which is possibly part of its charm. There's bits of it where I kind of think, oh, it's a bit heavy on the, echo and stuff like that, but it's still I like it as an album.
Yeah.
But now when I play the guitar, I'll sit down and like play the major key and stuff like that. Major scales, which I just didn't know at the time, but I've just learnt them, and I think that's a good thing. Like at my the 23 when it does come out, if it does come out, is I've described it to friends when I've been talking about it. It's like I think it's a bit boring in that it's very conventional.
Mm.
It's following that A B C A B structure. Like I
Yeah.
put a lot more thought into the compositions and stuff like that, which I'd never really done before. But now I've learned theory. It totally has changed the way I write my guitar-based music. So this next album potentially, my fear is that it's going to be boring because I've not done, I've not just gone and thrown it out kind of thing. I've maybe I have overthought it, but I won't know until I put it out.
Yeah, and just that you won't know because and sometimes for me I listen to songs that I thought were brilliant when I wrote them and I listen to them 10, 15 years later and I go I could have done this or that was a little transparent or this was a little obvious, those types of things. I'm listening to what you're saying, and for me, it was quite different. I started with the Royal Conservatory of Music in Toronto when I was 9. So I studied classical piano, and then I learned guitar, and then I learned a bunch of instruments. So when I started to play in bands, I found that I tried to do the opposite of what you're doing currently, is that I wanted every song to change after 8 bars, and whether the guys knew in the band knew what 8 bars meant or not. I had them changing all the time because, hey, we've got to add something here. Not that I knew composition. I hadn't studied at that point anything about composition, but I knew that I wanted to add a harmony and I wanted to add this and I wanted the rhythm to change. And I listen to those songs now and it's just like it's a little difficult to get through because it's 3 minutes of chopping and changing the whole way through. So that wasn't good composition. It was just knowing just enough to really mess it up.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny. I was reading a book this morning on harmony and cadences, and it's kind of like the perfect cadence.
Mhm.
It's like it's been tried and tested, so like there's no reason not to use it. it's like a perfectly acceptable way of finishing a song.
Right.
Um, so there's no reason not to use it now. I don't know whether that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like in the past, I probably would have been like, well, if everyone else has done that, then I'm going to do something different. Whereas now it's kind of like, well, maybe you should end on the tonic, just because it sounds
I had
nice.
a music teacher years ago. At a certain point, I wanted to experiment with that, breaking the rules. And he said, well, you got to know the rules first to break them, right? And that was part of it. But the other part was just because you can break the rule doesn't mean it's the right thing to do,
Yeah,
which I thought was a really cool perspective for a high school jazz music teacher to tell his student, you know. But I
yeah.
guess he had grown up in jazz, so
The rules probably start broken in jazz, and then
I think I think that's where he was coming from, is that a lot of his friends would have thought like I was at that age where I was saying, you know, if everybody's done it, I should do something different, what you just said, right? And he was saying, yeah, unless the thing that everybody's done is the right thing for that moment. Like, don't lock yourself so tightly into any of the rules, you know? Like, do what feels right at the moment. And, you know, to your point about, you know, after you've released something, are you going to know if it sounds boring or if it sounds interesting? I don't know. I mean, what you created at the moment felt right, and it felt right to release it to people. And I think at that point, it's for everybody else to decide now because you've already made that decision for yourself, you
yeah.
know?
And to be honest, once you have released it, like it kind of doesn't matter what anyone else thinks anyway, because
Yeah.
it's done. You know what I mean, it's like let's move on, sort of thing.
Yeah, that ship has
Um,
sailed.
and yeah, and it's funny, just sitting here thinking about it now. I'm saying, oh, maybe it's boring and like I don't play the guitar the same way, and I bet like it's kind of uh, similar to what we were saying earlier, like if you keep making tweaks and changes, the only person that will notice is you. I mean, it might be the same when I release the album. Everyone will be like, "Oh, that's great. That sounds just like you." But whereas I'm thinking, "Oh, that's
A huge
that's
departure for me.
yeah, that's not like anything I've done before." But it could be that it sounds just exactly the same.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I, for one, am very interested to hear it when it comes out. I hope it does come out because you said if it comes out, I hope it does. Because again, back to the thing about the numbers game, like, you know, you said that you don't have a huge number of listeners, and I said I don't have a huge number of subscribers. But what actually matters to me is, you know, someone like yourself who's listening and enjoying it and watching it and thinking this is good. That means a lot to me. Whereas
Yeah.
800 subscribers, 1,000 subscribers, 1,500, whatever the number might be at some point in the future, if those people all also enjoy it, then I'm happy. But if they're just subscribing because I don't know, it's something to do and they never go back and watch it, like that doesn't make me feel fulfilled. That, you know, what
No.
makes me happy is people like yourself saying you're watching it and you're getting something from it.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it will come out. It's just one of those things that I kind of um, like. I worked quite a lot on it in October. I had a week's annual leave, and I did a lot on it then. And I've not like opened it up since because I just maybe it just needs to ferment a little, and then I'll go back to it and go, all right, okay, that's fine. I only need to do this, and then it will be ready. And
Right.
I'm also like, I'm sort of two-thirds of the way through a second uh, orchestral suite, and I kind of that's I don't know whether I'll release that either because that's something I'm just doing because I enjoy figuring out like the harmony and stuff now and melodies and what chords work with that kind of progression and whatever. But I don't like I released that first week just because I could. I don't know that I should release a second one just because I could. I'll perhaps like the dream would be to have an orchestra player, but that's not likely to happen. So
It's about a month ago now that I spoke with Lewis Gill, who's in Warwick in England. He's, I guess, what I would call an avant-garde composer. And he's had now like professional level organists play his music that he creates like you and I in our houses on our DAW. You never know.
that's true. But I think the real trouble, and it's a shame, is that modern classical music doesn't really have an avenue to be played a great deal. Certainly not locally to me, anyway. Like majority of like my closest sort of venues to see that would be Glasgow, and most people want to see Beethoven's Fifth
Right. Yeah.
music, but it's
Excellent.
kind of like that they're not picking up new music because no
Right.
one wants to hear it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, and it does have an ebb and flow to it. There are people out there who are professional musicians, accomplished classical pianists or violinists, whatever, who are trying to play things that are not the regular canon that we all listen to, Mozart and Beethoven and, Mendelssohn, whatever. And you got to do it kind of like when back in the day when I was playing in clubs with my band and we were putting in original songs, but then we'd have to go to our, okay, now we're going to play a Guns N' Roses or we're going to play a,
Yeah.
something that people know as a hook. But there are people doing that now. And I just spoke with a lady in Finland, LaDena Laine is her name. She makes gospel music and she also makes children's music. And one of the questions was, how do you get people to buy your catalog, which she has been. She's making the sheet music for it, and people are buying it for use in plays or in churches and things like that. She's doing really well with canary songs. You know, if I'm working with kids and I want them to sing songs, I'm going to teach them Mary Had a Little Lamb and Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. How do you get people to access this new children's music? She had some really great answers about that, but long story short is that sometimes people, the adults themselves dealing with the music, they want something different. They want something new. You never know.
It's getting smaller every day. We're cutting the lights away. Check the decisions that you make. How much more can the forest take? Instead of relying on logging.
Al, I think I've kept you longer than the call that was originally intended.
That's
Um,
fine. It's good talking.
yeah, I really appreciate it, and like I said, I appreciate the insight into music that I've been enjoying and knowing a little bit more about the process to get there. One of the things I like to ask people at the end or as we wind down our chat is if there was a question that you wish I had asked but I didn't ask, or if there was a topic that you wish we had covered that we haven't, can you think of anything that you would have liked to include?
Oh, I don't think so. I think I didn't really have any expectations as to what we would discuss. Just that we would probably just sit and chat about music, which I think we've done quite well.
I've
I
enjoyed
like
it.
talking about music, and it's one of those things when you bump into someone even in everyday life, and you find, oh, you play the piano or whatever. You then find like 20 minutes of your day gone just getting excited about music, and I kind of feel like that's what your uh, podcast puts across as well to me. Just people being excited about music. I hope we've done that.
I think so. I would be really surprised for somebody to watch this and not find it interesting, what you've been saying about, first of all, loving music and then life taking you in a different direction. But then somehow it pulls you back in, like you can leave music for a bit, but music pulls you back in. That's what I feel.
Yeah, but it's strange as well because I kind of I feel like um I really it's not like a regret as such. I wouldn't say a huge amount of regrets in life, but I kind of wish I'd not had that 8 year break because like think of what I could have done. What I could have done in those 8 years, but it is what it is. It's
The
just
way that I look at that myself is if I'm happy where I am right now, then I wouldn't go back and change any of it because I might not end up where I am right now.
no, totally.
I mean, for me, it is kind of stunning that you've put out this music that I listened to it and I looked at the score as it flies by on YouTube, and I thought, man, that it's like I think it's really impressive. I think it's great sounding, but it's also the way that it's constructed is really well done. For somebody who does arranging as part of my living, I really like the way that you did it. And I've commented that on your YouTube channel as well.
Uh, That's kind of sort of incredible to hear, really, because I don't I don't feel that way myself. Like I look back at it, and even now, because I am continually learning, I kind of think, oh, I wouldn't do that. But maybe that's part of its charm is that I did do that just because I was learning.
Years ago, I was teaching English as a second language in Venezuela. A student of mine was trying to learn English, and she decided that as a musician, she wanted to try and write songs in English. She played a song for me, and it was really cute. She was like 16 or something at the time. And she said, play one of your songs. I know you play guitar and you write. So I played her one of my songs. She said, why is it when I hear your song, it sounds like it was written by somebody who knows how to write songs? Whereas when I hear my song, it feels like a 16-year-old who has no idea what she's doing. And I said, most of it is because you're the 16-year-old. So you heard it in your head before you heard it outside in the world. So it's not that interesting to you because you already knew it. Like
Uh-huh.
my point being, when I listen to your music, yeah, maybe some of it is what I find interesting about it is that I wouldn't have done that thing that you did. I wouldn't
Yeah.
have put that horn there doing that because it's not supposed to be there. It's supposed to be doing, like
Yeah.
um but that is what makes it for me interesting is that if I wanted to hear exactly what was in my head, then I would go and create my own music and I wouldn't listen to other people's music. It's the whole point, really.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Keep doing it. Keep putting it out because I'm here to listen for one.
I'm not going to give up.
Good. Al, I'm going to say thank you so much again for the time. I do appreciate the time that you spent chatting with me and sharing your insights. And I hope at some point we can do it again, actually. I would love to chat with you again.
Yeah, maybe when I release Second Suite or a new album.
Absolutely. That'd be perfect.
But thanks for having me as well. I enjoyed it.